Hello, welcome to the Crownsman Show. I'm your host, Jared Downey. Joining me is Gowdy Molina. Hello, Gowdy.
Hello.
Ready for a busy week of shows? We got lots.
I know we have like 3, 4. I've lost count.
We need more, Gowdy. We need more.
Be
No,
exhausted after this week.
what I wish is that I could retain as much knowledge as gets shared on this show.
I know it's hard. You know what? Especially sometimes when we have multiple shows in a day, I go back home and I'm like, oh, I learned this
This thing, yeah.
but it's about, and there's just no words that
And
come
then
out.
what's really bad is when you try to explain it.
Yeah.
I just did this coming on with our guest before the show, trying to explain the technology of a company, and I was like, oh, that's why they're on the show. They explain it. Okay, today on the show we have Antu Chicahuala. He is the vice president of Accusteel. They're building specialty transport equipment, and not just building it. They are designing. I think their slogan is basically, I think if you dream it, we can build it.
I love that.
That I got it right. They've done some really neat projects. They're working across America. It's very interesting what they're doing, and their story is interesting. Before we do that, we have to give a shout out to our interesting sponsors, Gowdy.
Absolutely. Okay, so first up, we've got the Bucket Shop. The Bucket Shop provides wear solutions for all mining bucket applications that extend life cycles of 3 to 4 times. They help clients improve productivity and reduce operating costs by providing innovative options, including their 5-piece cast lip system, their cast heel shrouds, and mechanical 2 and 5-piece buckets with optional disposable front ends. Beyond buckets, they provide truck box assemblies and liners, custom builds, undercarriage systems, ground engaging tools, and abrasive blasting and painting. Begin your savings today and visit thebucketshop.ca. Next up, we have Savona Equipment. Did you know that Savona Equipment is an electrical supplier in both Canada and the United States? Their electrical inventory includes breakers, disconnects, TEFC electric motors, starters, tech cable, cab tire, motor control centers, and transformers. For your new and refurbished electrical equipment, visit savonaequipment.com, where you'll find more equipment every day. Next up, we also have Holly Frontier. Holly Frontier Lubricants and Specialties, which includes the Petro-Canada Lubricants brand, Petro-Canada Lubricants products and services are proven to maximize equipment performance, productivity, and overall savings. From heavy-duty engine oils to hydraulic fluids, automatic transmission fluids, and gear oils and greases, Petro-Canada Lubricants is committed to delivering innovative solutions that deliver value and keep businesses moving. They have dedicated technical expertise, knowledge, and know-how to help customers in the mining industry operate smoothly with improved equipment, reliability, and performance. You can learn more at lubricants.petro-canada.com, or you can contact them 1-866-335-3369 to arrange a call with one of their technical experts. And last but not least, we've got PowerZone. When you need a specialized team of world-class engineers for your oil and gas pipelines, dewatering, or any fluid handling needs, you want to visit powerzone.com. In addition to their inventory of rebuilt pumps, motors, engines, they also have an amazing team to design and engineer your systems, no matter the challenge, no matter the location. Get in the zone with PowerZone. Visit them at powerzone.com. There we go.
Okay, that is a great list of sponsors, and you can find I think everybody on the sponsorship list has been a guest, right?
Yes, that is correct.
Some of them multiple times.
Yes.
On separate shows.
Yeah.
Some of these companies
they all have different
cover a lot of ground.
Yeah.
As does Accusteel. Hello, Antu. Welcome to the show. Good to have you on.
Hey, Jared. Thanks for having me on the show today.
I want to jump right into, we're going to cover what you do, where you do it, projects and all that stuff. But I want to give people a scope right away, because one of my fears on the show is always that people will not quite understand the scale that a company can work at. So I want to start, first question off of the day, is there a project that sort of stands out to you as, something different that people probably haven't seen before?
Yeah, sure. So a good example of that, I think, would be our universal mover. So it's a transport application for the mining sector for off-road. The universal mover, we actually patented it a few years ago in Canada and the United States. So basically, it's a gantry mixed with a heavy haul or low boil style trailer, where the back of the trailer is completely open. So you're able to actually back over pieces of equipment, whether that be dragline buckets, shovel buckets, excavators, even a sea can, whatever you can really imagine out in the middle of a mine. Basically back over it, lift it up, and then you're able to winch it down with the provided winches that it has there and take off. So it's a little bit of a revolutionary thing in terms of the way to approach transport within a mine. Historically, you'd have a crane or two cranes and a trailer and a crew go all the way out into the middle of the mine, move the stuff, lift the stuff, bring it back, unload it. That could cost 5, 10, 20, even $30,000 by the time you're done just for one move. So by doing this, you eliminate a lot of that extra labor and effort and do it all with one piece of equipment.
I have to. So I'm seeing this one picture of it sort of from the back where it's open. Does the top mechanism, is that what's holding it, or the top frame, is that what's actually holding it together? Or then once it's set, do you then put like some sort of bar or something across?
Yeah, so that top piece, the gantry piece, it's adjustable width-wise and lengthwise, all on remote control. So you basically need to, like an overhead crane, line up your pick points so that they're directly over top of the loading points, the shackles. Once you actually lift it in the air, well, before you actually lift it, there's 4 winches on the corners, hydraulic winches, very similar to a recovery winch you would see out on a recovery operation. You hook those up once you've lifted up in the air and you've cleared out of the danger zone, we call it. Then you snug up those 4 winches, and that would be the equivalent of tying the load down so it doesn't swing and sway while you're driving around.
I see. So this is low speed. I mean, obviously this isn't highway transport stuff. This is like low mining speed. Yeah. So like, for example, the design of this, does someone have a problem and then you fill that solution, or are they saying, hey, we have a concept for how we want to do this, and then you sort of work with them to do the design? How does something like this come about, especially something that sort of changes the way people do it?
Yeah, well, this particular application came out just like that. It came out through a problem that a customer had. We were approached by a client and said, hey, we want to be able to move. In this case, it was dragline buckets. Said, hey, we need a solution. Now, their current solution was the one that I mentioned earlier, the cranes and the heavy haul low boy that's more traditional. And that was costing them money. So we came up with this concept of having a gantry style trailer, and it was able to solve that problem. But we quickly found that it actually was able to do many other things as well.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I don't know if that was always the plan of now you can move an excavator, or you can move a broken boom, or a skid of chains and things of that nature. That kind of just came later in the process, I believe, and today we have this product.
This is a little bit off tangent, but I have to ask, the process of patenting something, is that a long process to go through? I mean, sort of at what point did this design, you go, okay, this is actually our design, and someone can't just go and build 10 different versions of these? Was that sort of right off the bat you realized that, or as you started to see it in the field, where did that process start?
Yeah, well, so the patenting portion, I believe by legal nature, needs to come very early, because once you disclose it to the world after a certain period, you basically give up your rights to be able to patent it. So this was one that we identified very early in the design stage, when everything was kind of secretive, let's say, and said, hey, we need to patent this. We see potential here, and so we jumped on the opportunity and was able to get it done. So.
Yeah, very cool. Okay, I probably should move on to a couple of the other things that your team is doing. Okay, so let's talk about the industry you serve. You're doing on-road and off-road, right? So can you give us that scope of, and maybe some examples to sort of walk the audience through what you're doing in which industries?
Sure. Yeah, so we do on highway stuff like we've mentioned. we'll build 13 axles, 10 axles, 9 axles, big 120-ton transporters, steering dollies, perimeter frames. A lot of the stuff that we manufacture is very custom. Now we have there's many players in the industry and many people that build, their standard line of things. We don't like to compete with those. Our products are very much handcrafted, custom, very much attention to detail, and usually aimed at solving particular problems. So our volume per se per year is not huge. We really focus on putting out quality, low volume, and again, just to meet the needs of our clientele that usually is a little bit more specialized. So a particular load or a particular contract that they have in which they'll be able to use our equipment for those means. So that a 13 axle that we built a few years ago, they asked, can you put steering on the rear end? It's a California style, our LBW Series 13 axle, just so they're able to put long decks and rails and be able to still maneuver. We added steering to it and little options like that please the customer and allow them to do their job.
So on something like that, is that once you do that once, though, you must then, and somebody sees it and you must get references and that, do you, how often do you just build a one-off with a unit like this? I'm sure it generates more business afterwards.
Yeah, that's always the goal. And typically that's what happens after you've built 1, 2, 3, you start to put together product lines and options and things that people recognize and know. So we keep that engineering data and that testing data and all of that in our back pocket, and we're able to grow on that and use that on future projects. And that's been a huge asset of ours.
I saw one of these, it says the LBW Series 32 wheeler. So
Mhm.
is this an on-road unit?
Yeah, so that's an on-highway trailer. So it's a light 32 wheeler, so a 16-wheel Jeep converter and a 32-wheel trailer. Idea of that project was basically to be able to move some construction equipment and be very light. Even in Alberta, where we are, road bans are quite large in terms of reducing weight. So in the springtime, the allowable weights on the roads go way down. And so you need some very efficient trailers to be able to have low tear weight, to be able to provide the ability to hold the payloads without needing huge amounts of wheels. So this solved that problem for the customer.
So again, going back to this, when this is coming, do you have a blueprint in place, or do they need to say we're hauling this type of equipment? So you actually need to design this trailer specifically for them, because they're going to be every spring they're going to be hauling this unit out, this equipment that they have out.
Yeah, correct. So this particular project was specifically designed around 2 pieces of equipment. So that scraper you see, and I believe another excavator, I don't remember the exact model, but getting those weights and making sure that they are able to transport those particular pieces of equipment in the spring in Alberta, that was the goal. We met the goal, move on. So can they use it for other applications, other pieces of equipment, other things? Yes. But this one was specific to moving that particular scraper and excavator.
Now, jumping over to the off-road side, I mean, what would you say? What would you say is your main thing? Is it, or is it pretty even between the off-road and on-road?
Yeah, no, I would say it's very even. We try and keep our portfolio diversified and meet all market demands. So we don't like to turn down projects if they're able to meet our stay within our scope and that we feel that our expertise will really provide value. So I wouldn't say there's one that we prefer more than the other.
So the industry is like, I'm looking at another one here. This is an I think this is actually a logging unit. Kind of an interesting looking thing. So is that's another stream then? Obviously it's anything that's heavy haul. But can you talk a little, this is kind of a neat looking unit. So I thought I'd highlight that one as well.
Yeah, so the logging off-road stuff, a lot of that has to do within plants. So within the pulp and paper mills, a lot of the time they need to transport around the the mill's pieces of lumber, either long or cut to length, and they need to move them from the plant out to the yard or to the forwarding area. So this particular unit that you're looking at was a forwarding wagon that I believe it was hauling about 60,000 pounds in lumber. So just those two axles alone would not handle that out on the highway. That would not be legal. But this allowed them to move them around the yard efficiently. If you had to use conventional logging trailers, you would have many wheels, you would have a lot smaller loads, you would have high amounts of moving parts and maintenance. So it was a rough, rugged off-road way for them to efficiently keep their production going within the mill.
What about going into stuff like, like a lot of these trailers now are being used as, mobile workstations, electrical units, transporting equipment that actually needs to be lifted and taken out. There's all this type of stuff. Is that another stream that you're doing a lot of work in?
Yeah. So similar to our OEM line of stuff, we work with original equipment manufacturers that would, have equipment that they sell to customers, and they would need wheels underneath. So things that need to be put on and off or permanently mounted to trailers. That's something that we do very often. So our engineering department works with other firms to make sure our equipment is unified and does not destroy the end use goal, and actually work together. So we integrate the trailer with the equipment.
So are there some examples of that? Because I'd like to actually see some of these projects. So these are actually you're working with manufacturers themselves that are putting their equipment out on the field and then need your units, units to transport them around.
Correct. So like a good example, we did a substation trailer for a company. They had a transformer and substation panel and things that they needed to put on the trailer, and it needed to go out onto a site. So we needed to build a trailer that had, handrails and ladders, and it needed to be built to building codes and the end users desired codes. So we integrated all that together and made sure they had all their features and made sure that they were able to actually meet their end goals, and design that from scratch, get approvals, work together, and get the wheels on the ground. So
So so a project like that, like how long would from start to finish? Does the OEM have this customer already in place and everything set up, and then they come to you and say, this is what we need. This is an ongoing projects that you do with them, or like do you have some idea what this frame already is? How long does this whole process take before this unit would actually land in the customer's field from the time you?
so usually we have established relationships, but if we speak to a new customer, let's say, they would reach out to us during their bidding process,
Right.
early on in their project, because they would kind of want to know budgetary numbers, obviously, timelines, feasibility, and we kind of give them some guidance on preliminary loading, configurations for wheels, what jurisdictions and regions the trailers need to operate in. That allows us to inform them, first of all, just on an advisory front, what kind of trailer they're going to need. Because a lot of the times these guys are not trailer people. They're equipment people. They're focused on their industries. So by consulting with our team a little bit early, it allows them to have a framework at least and approach their customer from an educated point of view. After that, if their customer says, yes, let's move forward, let's do this, we get into a little bit more firm design and iterations back and forth. So by the time we actually get from approval to completion of design, that could take as little as 2 weeks. We've had it take as much as 3 months. It really depends on the project, the complexity, and what's all entitled in the project.
I'm splitting hairs a little bit, but I am just curious. When you have, so I'm looking at this one with it's got the platform and the railings, and then the steps and exit points on multiple points of the trailer and things like that. So that's pretty straightforward. Now, you then send them this design and then they take a program and then build onto it? I just mean from a technical standpoint of
Yeah.
your internal design, and then they have to take that and then add their own design onto it.
No, so it's actually the inverse. We usually get their design and work down from their things.
Got it.
And that's kind of the product offering and the competitive advantage that we offer, is that you don't need to rework your equipment. You don't need to rework your design. Use exactly what you traditionally use. We'll just build around it and really make it a full package.
Right. I want to move along here onto this like the drill rigs and these types of things, incinerators and all this sort of stuff within the energy sector. Are you Now, you're not building the actual mechanisms that operate these, but how much your business is also working with companies like these?
Yeah, so that is a large portion of our business, and it goes back to the whole customization portion. So the drill rig project that you see, for example, that was 450,000 pounds gross weight moving down the road. That project was going up to the North Slope up in Alaska, up by Prudhoe Bay, and our goal there is, here you have this rig, for example, or whatever it may be, we can put wheels under it. If you need to make it mobile, we can put wheels under it. We can make infinite configurations and use infinite wheels and tire configurations, axle configurations, suspension configurations to make it work.
But on this one here, though, we're kind of in an OEM portion where you're building it on behalf of the OEMs. On this one, is this an off-road, or this kind of looks like on-road?
So yeah, that's when you go up to Alaska, there up to the North Slope, off-road and on highway, the line becomes very gray because the roads up there are not conventional. You're going out on flat ice, and there is loading restrictions and things depending on who owns the land and the lease site. But
okay.
Regulations are a lot less than, let's say, an interstate in the middle of Mississippi. So.
Oh, I see. Okay, so this
Yeah.
isn't coming from Alberta up there.
Correct. So
okay.
ships in multiple loads and multiple pieces designed to actually completely unbolt
Right. Okay.
and be able to be put back together.
So, but then this rig up here, there's this rig where it's actually sitting on there. There's one in the shop, and then there's one where it's on site. This looks like, is there other pieces to this, or does this looks like a finished load here, though, on where it's got that quadruple 4-axle thing?
Yeah. So there it's mostly put together there. So we have there's the trailers themselves. There's dog houses inside of there, fuel tanks, the substructure. I believe there was a service rig inside of there with the mast sticking up. There's some other buildings there for pipe handling and mud tanks and things that are not on that system. But the majority of the rig is put together right on top of that drill platform, we call it, or trailer. So.
We're covering a lot of more projects than sometimes we do on the show, but I mean, it is the nature of your business, so I really wanted to focus. I'm going to ask you one more, and then I want to talk about some of the company history and things like that. I'm going to say this wrong now. The Schnabel next, the 90-ton.
Yeah.
Tell us about this unit, because it looks it looks cool.
Yeah. So that was actually a project that we did. It's got to be close to 10 years ago. But we worked with Nickel Brothers, who I believe has been on your show before.
Yeah.
So we worked with them, and there were actually they were awarded a contract to move some evaporator plant components up to Weyerhaeuser's pulp and paper mill in Grand Prairie. So these evaporator components were actually coming from Asia, and there was question of how they were going to get them from Asia to Grand Prairie. And so Nickel Brothers came up with a great plan of bringing them up through, I believe it went up to Lewiston, Idaho on barges up the river there. And we designed these necks that were able to pin onto the vessels. The problem at the time was the vessels were not designed to do such a thing. to actually take that torque, as you see in some of these pictures here. The necks, when they're pinned onto the vessels, where they lift up, the Schnabel principle, which we did not invent. It's an old principle, but by hydraulic force and creating torque or a moment on the end of the vessel, it creates lift. So it allows you to ride an inch off the ground or 5 feet off the ground, depending on what's in the way. So we worked actually with the engineers. Our engineers worked with Nickel Brothers engineers, and in turn with the engineers in Asia. And together we all came up with this plan of let's get Schnabel necks and pin them on. And that was able to save the project and allow them to be able to meet all their height restrictions and weight restrictions. The beauty of the Schnabel system is that you don't need a platform or a trailer underneath holding it. So the load actually becomes the structure, and that saves on a lot of weight.
What, right? It's I'm so glad you brought up Nickel Brothers. It's so it's so interesting, and it's kind of a payoff of doing this show where you start to see these industries overlap and people that we've had on from, sort of in my mind they're in a different industry, but then of course I think about it, yeah, that they're doing everything sort of in line with what you're offering.
Yeah.
Um, I want to jump into a little bit. I want to quickly touch on just before we move on to this. Just some of the other, like, you'll do these repairs and stuff, and I just want to let the audience know that you do that sort of stuff. So you're actually doing some repair and maintenance work as well. Is that right?
That's correct. So a large part of our business actually is our engineered repairs of structural issues on heavy hull trailers. So, wear and tear happens, fatigue happens, overloading happens, accidents happen. And a lot of the times these things need to get repaired properly. I know there's many welders out there, there's many people out there with capabilities, and not to take away from them at all. But we feel that it's very important that sometimes these things get repaired, from a manufacturing lens, to ensure that the quality is there, the weld procedures are in place, the engineering is there. And so we can take mangled units that were basically write-offs and make them new again. And so that's a big part of our business, being able to identify root cause analysis and what took place there, and then alleviate those problems.
Well, I mean, it's clear going through the projects that you've done. I mean, what you're able to provide, but now we gotta swing way back into the beginning of it. And you sent us some pictures, so it's a lot of fun when you get to see this sort of stuff. The original picture, it doesn't look like, unless it's an optical illusion, it doesn't look like a giant warehouse where this all got started.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting story actually. So my parents actually started Accusteel. It's about 1995 or so approximately, and actually did it out of a home garage. So the picture you see is one of the houses where I grew up. We used to, my father was working for a company at the time, doing some contracting, and would weld some assemblies and sub-assemblies at home. We then later started contracting and subcontracting at different companies, doing different trailer systems and air and electrical systems, hydraulic systems, and providing a bit of a service. Excuse me. Eventually started working at a shop. And the shop that you see, the second shop, if you want to call it, is Accusteel's first shop, which was not originally Accusteel. It was, I believe, truck and trailer repair center in which my father worked. Eventually got the opportunity that the business that was operating out of there was selling, and my father was able to take over and really morph Accusteel into that location. So the original logo you see there, it was Accusteel Trailer Center. We used to do repairs and fabrication of some small assemblies and things like that. And so it was an exciting time, but really knowing that you started with nothing, I believe it was a tense time for our family, and probably came with a lot of headaches. I was very young, and so my parents probably bared the grunt of that.
Yeah.
So.
Did you sense that though? I mean, it is a struggle to start any business. Is it? Did you so do you remember, was it when you were 5 or 10 where you started to sort of understand things like the pressure that your parents would feel trying
Yeah.
to run a business.
Yeah, both my brother and I are both involved in the business still, and we definitely were aware. We saw the projects, and from a young age, we were sweeping the floor in the shop, and we were helping with wiring and doing air systems and welding and cutting material, and so we were always there. We were always around, and we were aware that the business was a difficult undertaking, but we were always blessed that things worked out.
Yeah, it's always interesting that people, so I guess without having met your father, props to him that you were out there sweeping the floor. You didn't get a free ride then.
No, I think that's one of the things that I'm thankful for. We got to see this business from the ground up, and we got to really experience work, and we got to, it's very, very easy now as I go to lead this business to look back and I can look in the shop and say, hey, I know what you're doing, I know what you're
Yeah,
dealing with, and really design now processes and projects and systems that meet the understanding of those early tasks in the process.
right at the ground level.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I want to talk a little bit too about just from his approach, and now transferring that to you and your brother, and the the approach of, I mean, starting off with doing, repairs and smaller fabrication and things like that. And now you're going into actually building these custom projects. Did those types of things come from existing customers that you went, I'll say your father started saying, no, we can also do this. We can build the whole thing for you. How did that sort of transition? Because that is a big pivot from repair to actual manufacturing.
Yeah, and so that stems a lot from maybe my father's character. Anything is fixable. We can build anything. If you can dream it, we can build it. Nothing's really impossible. You throw enough effort, you throw enough money, you throw enough knowledge at it, and these problems really, we can solve them. Now, the inverse part of that coin is gaining the trust of the customers. You have a little garage, you have a little shop. How do you get, no one's going to let you build a huge trailer. Here's $1 million project. So that takes time. It took 10, 15 years really to gain the confidence of the industry.
Wow.
Um, and it's day in, day out, doing your best, doing good work, and putting nothing but good quality out your door. We had no marketing, we had no administrative real knowledge, but we knew how to build stuff, we knew how to weld stuff, we knew how to design stuff. And I believe we weren't scared to take risks. Maybe ignorance played a part in that sometimes we didn't know
You
the
need a
risks we
little
were
bit of
getting
it.
into.
You need a little bit.
But we look back today and look at the journey that we went on, and it's been a real blessing to be able to look back and see what we accomplished. Word of mouth got things going,
Yeah.
and allowed people to see, hey, take your stuff there, see what they can do.
Yeah.
And today we are doing some marketing. I'm on this show today with you, and the goal is to not stray away from the initial, quality, innovation, integrity. Very, very important pivotal, let's say, columns in our business model.
And I just to, be very, very blunt, it's always nice to see when the second generation has that, work ethic and that. But I see two kinds of people that really respect where they came from and want to build on it. And then I see people that they sort of harbor like sort of this desire to almost make it completely their own and sort of throw out. And it's just, which I think is one of the worst ideas in the world, because why not build and make something new, and then it will become its own thing. But you guys have built I mean, now your facility, I saw another picture that you sent. I mean, that's a beautiful facility. Is that your own? Did you build that?
Yeah, so that's our new upgraded facility. So now we have closer to 30,000 square foot overall, and you know where is the end? Where's the end of the growth? We don't know. Are we going to continue to grow? We hope, but we just go day at a time and focus on the products, and focus on the quality, and focus on our people. there's many employees we have that have been with us for 5, 10+ years, and we would not be where we are today without those people. When we were a little shop, and when we were, we didn't have the resources and facilities. These people came into work every day. They came on weekends, they came on evenings.
Amazing.
People busted their butts, and they believed in the vision, the dream, and today we owe them as well. So
Yeah, I mean, the people that help you build a company, I mean, people like Gowdy here are helping us, and and my business partner and that. I mean, it's amazing what, if people see that you're doing your best, it's amazing what, it's not all about, if you're watching a movie, there's this pivotal speech at the moment, but in a job, it's not like that. You got to go day after day after day. And I think a lot of times they just want to see that you're putting in the effort, and people will then support that. And yeah, it's really nice to talk to you and just sort of see not just what you can do from a technical standpoint, what you can do at scale, but also that family component. I mean, it just adds a layer to the story and I think a lot of companies want to work with companies that have your type of story, but that have the quality and the expertise behind it. It's not. I always am a little off put when a company has, we're a family run with this, where it's like, oh, I kind of want to know if you can do the job. But when you see that there is that meat behind it, then it's a huge selling feature. I think it really is, even for large corporations. Just quickly, Antu, where are you covering? I think I said in the beginning of the show, across America. I don't know if that's completely right. Where is sort of the furthest reach that you have, just geographically?
yeah, so I mean, we will accept projects from across the globe because that's our ultimate goal. But
Right.
majority of our projects come, I would say, the northwest quadrant of North America. We do stuff across Canada and the United States, but majority of our stuff is in the northwest. We do a lot up actually Northwest Territories, Alaska,
Yeah.
Yukon, in the mines there, British Columbia, and then Northwest United States as well. So yeah, we our reach is really wherever it takes us, and we don't really have a target market in terms of, we'll only serve here or focus here. We would
Right.
like to be able to expand that, but there's many companies more local that we have long-term relationships with.
Yeah, and the nature of your business, you don't really want to focus in on one particular sector because of
Exactly.
sort of what your brand is. I guess one last question I have for you, before I let you go, is, and I'm always interested in people's, how they come to leadership and that. Did you hit a point where you knew, like, I'm going to be involved in this? I like this business. I want to be, I want to be a leader. I want to show appreciation to staff, and all those types of things that you have to do to sort of, not just be part of the company, but also to have the respect of your peers and things like that. Was there sort of a point where you hit that, or was it pretty young that you knew you'd want to be a part of it?
I think I can't identify an exact story or point. It was a bit of a journey, having done the growing up in the shop basically, and actually became a trailer mechanic at an early age. I realized, I think I was funny story, but I was underneath a trailer. It was -40. I think I was changing a brake pot or something, and my hands were cold, and I said, is this what I want to be doing? Right. And so at that point, I wasn't saying, hey, I'm going to take over the company or anything like that. But I said, I'm going to go back to school. And so I went back to school. I did my mechanical engineering, got out of school. I went and worked at another company for a little while to learn some things, and, had a conversation with my father one day and said, you know what, I'm going to come back. And so I came back and actually started the engineering department at Accusteel, kind of formalized our game plan in terms of how we're going to move forward into the next, time, and slowly I kind of just took the reins, and my father let me go with it, and here we are today. So I recently went back to school and just finishing up my master's in business, and trying to learn as much now about business and business management, and trying to make our processes more efficient, trying to make our customer relations a little bit more streamlined, and just get the whole company unified in one strategic direction.
Right.
So,
Yeah. No, very exciting. Very glad to have you on the show. I think it's a good story that you're telling, and it's all backed up by. I mean, I could keep going. Anybody who watched Joe knows that I like anything when it gets to be heavy equipment and the steel and that, then I'm all in. So, I could have gone and done more project highlights, but thanks for walking through it and thanks for being on the show. We really do appreciate it, and hopefully you'll come back on at some point.
well, Jared, thank you very much for having me on the show. It was really great. I watch your show often, so it was really nice to be able to meet you and be on the show. So thank
Very
you.
much appreciated. Thank you. Okay, thank you for watching, everybody. This is one of those episodes. I don't know, if 30,000 people watch it, and all I know is that I enjoy it. That's what I always say with equipment, anything, this type of stuff. I love doing these shows. Okay, Gowdy, where can people like, follow, subscribe? We'll have a links to Accusteel and that, but let's give Crownsman a plug to end the show.
All right. So first up, definitely subscribe to our YouTube channel. We've got tons of new episodes on there, and more to come as we're super, super booked. So you can also contact us, info@crownsman.com, if you want to be on one of the shows, whether it's the Crownsman Show, Crownsman Energy, Mining Now, Crownsman Ag. I'm sure there's more to come.
Yeah, we got five more series in the
Yeah.
yeah, they'll be producing
So
them.
contact us if you want to be on the show, or if you'd like to recommend someone else to be on the show.
Absolutely. And we're going to start doing a lot more, kind of putting this in the works, is to do a lot more customer, the company that's coming on, but then them featuring like a customer coming on. We've done a
Okay.
couple of those episodes and people really enjoy them
Yeah.
because it adds, well, essentially you're featuring two companies and it adds all these layers to it and shows
Right.
that business relationship and everything like that. Very interesting. We're going to see more of that in 2022. So watch out for that as well.
Fabulous.
Okay. Thank you very much, Gowdy. Thank you, Antu. Thank you, Accusteel. Thank you to all our sponsors. And thank you for watching. See you on the next episode of The Crownsman Show.